Okay. Okay, guys, we're getting this together. Okay, perfect, y'all. That's crazy because I was on here talking for 10 minutes on mute. And thank God for husbands. Thank God for husbands because he was like, I can't hear nothing you saying. And I was like, huh? On mute the whole time. What are we doing here? Okay, but the devil is a liar because he thought he was going to interrupt this live. And he ain't, okay? Because we're coming to reset and we don't have time for the shenanigans. And so, welcome guys to Build Without Burnout. This is a 3-day reset for women who are doing way too much, right? It doesn't matter if you're a CEO, if you're a mom, if you're in corporate or working a 9 to 5 or some kind of um, type of job full time and you're looking to transition out, this will be able to support you. Okay, Geneva said, tell us what you did. So with my slide, it was in a different Chrome browser. And I had the YouTube up. Okay. Y'all, my husband over here, he like, okay, we thank God. We thank God. And so yeah, so that's what happened. There was another YouTube up. So whenever I went live through Zoom, it opened up another tab and I couldn't find it until I like zoomed out of all of the things. And so that's what happened. But we are here, we are back. And so thank you all so much for sticking with me even through the technical difficulties, because the devil thought he had your girl, but he thought wrong. Okay. And so let's get into it. We are here. Let me know where y'all are tuning in from. Let me know. I'm so excited for tonight as well. Let me know where y'all are tuning in from. I don't know why people do that on these challenges. They kick it off and they say that, but if y'all know the psychology behind it, let me know that too, because everybody be doing it. And so, where are y'all from? I am in North Carolina right now. And so I'm gonna go right into it because it's already 6:10, and I know the VIP girlies are excited for their session afterwards. Um, but yes, thank you all so much for locking in with me on this evening. This is day one, and listen, we kicked off this morning session with Diana, and the way she broke down Exodus 18. Let me know if you were in the room this morning or if you got a chance to watch the replay before this session. Okay, Maryland is in the house. Canada is in the house. Okay. Okay, Cornell, sister. Georgia is in the house. North Carolina is here. Okay, yes, let me know if you were able to tune in for this morning's kickoff session because it was so fire, y'all. She really did do her thing for real. Um, y'all, me and Diana actually work together. And so we partnered together in her business and everything that she said, like she 100%, okay? And so literally this morning we talked through Exodus 18. And for those of you who weren't there, she literally had posted about Exodus 18 and that whole revelation. And at that time, when she posted it on social media, someone had reshared my same similar revelation that I had on the whole Jethro and Moses experience, that encounter, that conversation that they had. And she was like, she DM'd me and she was like, girl, we had the same revelation. And so we had to talk about it for day one. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, go ahead and watch the replay. It'll be available for a limited time only because I want to encourage you all to actually implement, because if I let y'all have it forever, then we'll procrastinate and we don't got time to procrastinate. But let's get into it. Day one, welcome. I have a question for you all, and this is going to be the question that set the tone for every single day of this reset. And the question is, who benefits from your obedience? Okay. Okay, South Carolina is in the house. Who benefits from your obedience? Like, let me know in the chat, because sometimes we're doing all of the things, we're wearing all of the hats, we're playing multiple roles, and we're not even thinking about, like, there's people who are benefiting from our obedience. Um, but those same people, they're impacted from our disobedience, right? And so I want you all to really begin to think about who benefits from your obedience. Write it down, journal, listen. Don't just come and listen, but I really want you all to think through all of these things, whether it's in your own personal journaling time, whether you're going to interact with us in the comments. But this is going to be the question that sets the foundation for all of the things that we talk about for the next 3 days. All right. And so if you do what God called you to do, who wins? Who benefits? Right? Prayer Warrior Chi says we don't even know fully, right? Like, you don't even know who all is benefiting, which makes it even worse because we can't even comprehend the the expansion of our reach of the message. Like, we don't even know how many people encounters us. I remember my husband was getting on social media, and I was like encouraging him, like, keep going, like, record the videos and post the video. And I remember he was doing like these sessions every single day on social media. And the one day he stopped, the guy who was meal prepping for us at the time, he was like, he hit him up and was like, hey, what happened to the videos? And we was like, the guy who meal prepped for us, like, I don't think we had ever had a conversation with him about like who we are and what we did. But he literally reached out and was like, what happened to the videos? I was watching them. Right. So sometimes we only think like our children, our spouse, our family, right, our target audience, but we can't even comprehend, like, the people that we encounter every single day can literally benefit from our obedience. Literally everyone connected to you. That's right. And so I want you all to think about that. And then also, whose life is impacted if you burn out, right? Because usually those who benefit from your obedience are also impacted if you burn out. So if you become overwhelmed and stressed out, or if you're shutting down, everyone who is impacted by your obedience, everyone that's connected to you, is also impacted in some capacity, right? And so again, I'm not gonna even get into Exodus 18 because Diana literally, she read all of our, she read us all for filth. Okay. And so if you want to get the recap of Exodus 18, it's literally on this YouTube channel. Just go to the live sections and go to the day one morning kickoff session, and you can watch the replay. Just know it was really good. And this is the anchor foundation for all of the things, right? So Exodus 18 will literally be the thing that anchors us over the next 3 days. All right. And I want to talk to you all about my guarantee over the next 3 days. I guarantee that if you show up present and you implement the things that I'm telling you to do, or the things that I am advising, the work that we'll be doing, because this is not going to be just me talking at you all. There's literally going to be interactive activities that are built in each evening session that we are going to work through. And I can guarantee you, based off of experience, not just in my own personal life, not just in my spouse's life, but in the clients that I serve, I can guarantee that if you do this work, you will see the fruit. You will produce the fruit to the extent of your execution of the work that you do over the next 3 days here. That's a guarantee, right? It doesn't matter if you're a mom, I'm a mom. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO, I'm a CEO. It doesn't matter if you're in ministry. I've been in ministry for basically all of my life. Okay. I was born in ministry, grew up in ministry. And so it doesn't matter where you're coming in, like whether you're in the beginning stages, in the ideation phases, whether you're in full blown growth and scaling phases, it does not matter. If you implement these things, I can guarantee you that you will produce the fruit. You will see a harvest based on your execution. All right. And so let's go. How many hats are you all wearing? Let me know in the chat. And I know there's a delay from where I'm at right now because I'm watching it on YouTube right with y'all because I'm monitoring the chat so I can talk to y'all and so y'all can talk back to me. And so I know there's a delay, but let me know in the chat how many hats you think you're wearing. Okay. How many hats you think you're wearing? Because usually, like off the top of my head, when someone says, like, how many hats are you wearing, Ebony? I'm going to immediately think, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter of the Most High King. So that comes with its own hat. I'm gonna think I'm also, a daughter. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a CEO. I have siblings and all of those things. Like I think about them. Somebody said I wear about 100 hats. Mercy. Somebody said they wear about 100 hats, and I just don't. That's why you here, sis. That's why you here. Okay. But yes, we're gonna talk about that because the truth of the matter is we do wear a good chunk of hats, right? And so if you really like sit down with yourself and ask yourself all of the things that you're doing, the roles that you play, and begin to calculate that, you will realize the number that you drop in the chat, you haven't even hit the surface, right? As a mom, I can wear the hat as mom, but then I would also wear the hat as chef, as cleaner, as chauffeur, because if I have to go run errands and to go to extracurricular activities and all of those things, that's already 4 hats just in motherhood, right? And that's only the ones that I name. You got to be the disciplinary. She said I was being funny. You being funny, but it really do be that many for real. If we really just sit there and think about it. And so I want you all to really think about like how many hats you're wearing because when I actually think about it, 10 does not scratch the surface, right? In your business, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, you want already, especially if you're starting out and you don't have a team, you already have hit the number 10, right? Because you're the CEO, right? So you're already coming up with a vision for your business, the mission for your business. You're probably responding to emails. You're probably doing your inbox and your calendar. That's admin. You got an assist, you the assistant, right? You're also doing operations. So you're thinking systems and processes. You're doing customer service. If you have to interact with customers, you're also communicating with stakeholders. You're in so many different things just as a person who owns a business and you don't have a team. And so if that's you already hit 10 just in business. And so we're thinking, I know I have y'all brains kind of going like, how many hats am I wearing actually? But then also ask yourself, like currently in this moment right now, how stressed are you? Right? I know right now we're probably like, okay, more chill, more settled. We did a little last, like with the tech issues and all of the things, like now we're here. How stressed are you? Right? You could be like, 0, girl. I am not stressed. All is well on my end. I am doing amazing. I'm having a beautiful day. And I love that for you. Okay. And then on 5, you're like, listen, at this point, I'm beyond burnt out. I don't have nothing else to give. I already quit my business 10 times this week and it's just Wednesday. Like, let me know. Right. So, how stressed are you? And these are things that I want you all to be reflecting on because we're going to hit on a lot of these questions as we continue out this training. Okay, so over the next 3 days, what are we talking about? Today, we're talking about the weight you didn't sign up for. So the hats that you're wearing that you didn't even know you were wearing, we call those invisible roles. So those are the things that we do every single day, every single week on a monthly basis, but we don't even include those things when I ask, like, how many hats are you wearing? And so we're going to be talking about the weight that you didn't sign up for today. And then tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the calendar hack that literally can free you up 10 to 15 plus hours a week. And I'm not saying it because it sounds good, and I'm not going to give you no fluff. I literally do this with my clients, the clients that I serve on a retainer basis, so month to month, as well as people who come and work with me on a one-on-one session. Like, we implement this calendar hack, and they literally see where they have freed up 10 to 15 hours of their week just by doing what I'm going to show you all on tomorrow. And then on day 3, Friday, I'm going to give you a 15-minute exercise that will literally expose what you need to stop doing immediately, right? And so that's what we're going to be talking about over the next 3 days. So today, again, the weight you did not sign up for. So tell me, what do you see when you see this rocking horse, right? When you look at a rocking horse, when you just, if you have a memory of a rocking horse, maybe you had one growing up as a child, like, what is the thing that you see when you see this rocking horse, right? Me, I think of, something joyful, something having fun. And listen, I can't even take credit for this because I was in New Jersey this what was it, a week ago or so, and they said this, and I was like, I gotta go and add this in the presentation. I was like, I gotta go add this to the presentation. And they were talking about this rocking horse. And the thing that they talked about regarding this rocking horse was that it's always in motion. The moment you just push it, it stays in motion, but it doesn't go anywhere, right? The rocking horse stays in motion but makes no progress. And a lot of times that's how we're operating. Whether you're a CEO, whether you're a mompreneur, sometimes we can be super busy, right? Even if you think about your year from January until today, you probably may have a hard time trying to figure out what all you got accomplished month to month, week to week. You may not be able to identify it because a lot of times what we find is we're doing a lot of busy work. We're doing a lot of things because we think productivity equals progress. We think that busyness means, like, sometimes busyness makes us feel value, like we're experts in doing something, right? If you have if you're a CEO and you have a business, you're doing all of the things that makes you feel like you're making strides. But then when you get to September, you're looking like, well, what did I do this year? Surely I should have been further along in my business. Surely I should have been further. Surely I should have launched by now. Surely the book should have been released. Surely all of these things should have happened. But here we are in September, and you're like, man, I've done a lot of things, but I don't see the fruit, right? I don't see the fruit of my time investment. And so that's what people call the rocking horse syndrome, right? And the key thing, like, and I put this here as a visual because every time you think of the rocking horse, every time you see a rocking horse, I want you to be reminded that busyness does not equate with progress. Okay. Do not confuse you being in all the things, you saying yes to all of the things, you doing all of the things. Don't confuse that with progress. Don't confuse that with obedience. For the Christian girlies and guys in the house, your busyness, right, whether it's in business, at home, in ministry, does not equate to obedience. But sometimes we think that, though. And so this is a visual. Every time you think about the rocking horse, if you find yourself super busy throughout your day, throughout your week, I want you to think of this rocking horse because we don't want to be like this rocking horse. All right. Another thing, high capacity does not mean you're always available. Many of you on this call, you are very high capacity women, right? That means you can do a lot of things without burning out. Like your tolerance level for hard things, your tolerance level for tasks and things of that nature, like, is very high. For me, I'm someone who can have a to-do list every day that has 10 things on it, 15 things on it. I'm very high capacity when it comes to life, right? To different aspects of life. But that doesn't mean always available. And sometimes we confuse the things because we think like, oh, I have a lot of capacity. Surely I should be able to say yes to this. Surely I should be able to say yes to this person, yes to this thing. But when we do that, because we're so high capacity, what we're saying yes to is I'm overextending myself. I'm overcommitting to things that I shouldn't be, things that aren't aligned, things that aren't God's will for my life. And we're also committing to disorganization. So the moment you begin to say yes to all of the things, you realize that you didn't count the calls, you didn't consider your calendar, and now you're disorganized, right? High capacity does not mean always available, right? It's going to lead to burnout. So, I want to talk about the three things that's probably draining your time, your energy, and your momentum, right? And so, we already kind of talked about wearing too many hats, right? And so sometimes, so when I was saying like, we may be saying like, oh, I got about 2 or 3 hats I wear. I have about 10 hats I wear, but we don't consider the things that we picked up by default. So I remember when I was in school, I hated group projects, y'all. I hated group projects because I knew that there was going to be that one person on the team who would not, who just wouldn't meet the expectation, or they wouldn't match the level of support or work that everyone else would do. And so, what would usually happen is somebody got to pick up that work by default. It wasn't your responsibility, but you had to pick it up by default for the sake of your A, right? And so even in life, in business, there's a lot of people who wear hats because you pick that thing up by default. And we don't realize that that drains your time, that drains your energy, and it hinders your momentum. It hinders your momentum. So for a good example, let's just say for CEOs, right? And so if you're a solopreneur, it's only you working in your business right now, which is perfectly fine. You're by default, you're the executive assistant, you're the customer service manager, you're the operations manager, you're the CFO, you're all of these things by default because who else, right? And so that's why I said, even alone for solopreneurs, you're naturally wearing multiple hats. And then over functioning, that's the second one. A lot of times we overfunction, we overcommit because fear of man, fear of rejection. And so we see where people are like, yes, I'll do this, even when they don't have capacity, even when it's misaligned because they fear man or because they fear rejection. Like, oh, if I tell this person no, then they're not going to like me anymore. If I tell this person no, then the next opportunity, they're not they're not going to want to deal with me. Or when I ask them for something, they're going to tell me no. And so to avoid hearing no, I'm going to just say yes to everything someone says or asks of me, right? We also do it out of guilt, right? If you're a mom, just type mom in the chat, because we as women, as moms, we overfunction out of guilt. So just think of the mom who is a single mother and you're literally working, right? To put food on the table, a roof over your head, all of the things. And you already have picked up the role of mom and dad by default because you're a single mom, right? Right. So I have some moms in the chat. And then we began to over function out of guilt. I remember like times where I grew up around a lot of single moms, right? And I remember there are times where they would come to events, right? Making sacrifices out of the guilt of if I don't show up, I'll be considered a bad mom, right? When I can't do this one thing, if I can't make this birthday party, there's this guilt of how people are gonna perceive them as because they didn't show up. And so instead of dealing with those things, over function, right? So you're taking the child everywhere. They're in all of the extracurricular activities. You're showing up and you're literally you have no energy. You don't have the time, but you're over functioning. And then sometimes it's pride, right? As business owners, what it looks like is you're doing all of the things because can't nobody do it like you. It's going to take too much time to train somebody to do it, right? I remember growing up in my household, I don't know how many times I've heard if I want something done, I have to do it myself, right? Which leads to not asking for support, not training someone on the right way to do it, right? A lack of clarity. All of those things stem from communicating even that one phrase. If I want something done, I have to do it myself. Nobody can do it like me. I don't have time to hire an assistant because I don't have time to train nobody, right? And we begin to over function simply out of pride. And so usually when we talk about over functioning, we get into this superwoman complex, this superwoman cape that we have seen people wear as a badge of honor, right? Applauding people for being independent women. And we've taken that role on, the invisible role of superwoman who over functions, and we've confused that with being high capacity, not realizing that it's draining our time, it's draining our energy, and it's hindering us or keeping us from momentum, gaining momentum, reaching our goals, doing what we said we were going to do. And then the third thing is survival mode scheduling, y'all. And this is when you're trying to make ends meet. You're in fight or flight mode, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do all of these things. Everything you're putting everything on your plate just out of survival. So in business, what that looks like is you don't have the time to support another client, right? But because you need the money, because you're trying to make ends meet, you're gonna say yes. Okay, I'll take you on. Yes, you can book a call with me, knowing you said that this was going to be your no meeting day. And so you said yes anyway, and we call that survival mode scheduling. And so those are the three things that drain your time, your energy, and your momentum. And so now that we've named the weight, right? The weight of over functioning out of guilt, out of pride, over functioning because we think no one can do it better than us, no one can do it as fast as us. Now that we named the weight of like all of the hats we wear, we've thought about all of the different things that we wear. Now we have to release all of those things so we can actually maximize our time, so that we can actually amplify our reach, and so that we can actually increase our revenue depending on what your goal is, right? So let's release it. Now, I don't know if y'all even heard me introduce myself because at one point I was on mute and then at the other point it was an echo. But I'm Ebony. For those of you who have not heard of me, have not encountered me, we haven't met before, I am Ebony. And I want to tell y'all a quick little story about the superwoman complex and the independent woman. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, I grew up around a whole bunch of women, right? Single women who were literally doing it on their own with little to no support from their spouse or ex-spouse or their baby fathers or what have you. And because I grew up in that environment and that's what I saw these independent women, these women wearing capes who would go to work all day, who would come home and they would cook and they would clean and they would make sure that, it was not just going out to eat, right? These women were coming home and cooking after working all day. They would support with homework. They were supporting with extracurricular activities, serving as the cheerleader coaches. Like, I saw these women do all of the things, work multiple jobs, sometimes overnight, just to make ends meet. And because I saw this, I thought that this was like, oh, this was the thing to do. I applauded because I'm like, my mama held it down. My aunties, they were holding it down. We never were like at home twiddling our thumbs. Like, there was always something for us to do. Even when I think about my grandmothers, right? They were holding it down. One of my grandfathers, he was a truck driver, and we literally, I could count on one hand how many times I saw him out of the year, right? And two of those times was Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. And so I'm growing up in this environment and I'm like, wow, these women are holding it down. And we applaud them for the taking on that hat, right? Taking on that role just out of default. But one of the things, as I was even preparing for this and reflecting, one of the things I realized was that these women made a lot of sacrifices to be able to show up for it. Listen, I was in so many organizations in school. I can't even tell you how many, but I was always running for something, joining the next club, doing an extracurricular activity here. Sometimes it was at school, sometimes it was off campus. I was working at the library. I was doing some of everything, right? And I saw these women literally show up every single time. There wasn't a time where they was like, no, you can't do this because I don't have time. No, you can't do this because we don't have the resources. It was always, let me figure out how to make it happen, right? But one of the things we don't realize that with over functioning, with the superwoman complex, with being the independent woman, there's still a cost. There was still a sacrifice that had to be made. And so what I saw was these women who were operating under the superwoman complex for whatever reason, right? They were saying no to something. I want y'all to understand that for every single yes that you make, you're saying no to something else. And so every time we were going into another extracurricular activity, another event, another opportunity, they were having to say no to some things. And so I watched them, like, even as I think about them now, I cannot ever complain when I see them taking trips. Y'all know how we be like, man, these grandmamas these days, my grandmamas was sitting at home all day. They was picking us up from school. They was at home cooking. They was at home. These grandmamas these days, they are taking trips. And I'm like, I don't even know if my grandmamas were ever took a flight, right? But these grandmamas, they taking trips. They going out of the country. They doing all of the things. They're running marathons. I'm just like, my mama was sitting at the braid shop the other day getting her hair done. And then the next day she called me. She had got her. I said, where you going? What you doing? Who you about to go see? Come get these grandkids. Like, they different. Y'all, they got a lot going on. But then when I think about it, I'm like, I can't even knock them because they sacrifice so much, right? It costs something. It costs them going back to school. It costs them pursuing the careers that they wanted to pursue, right? And so now later on in life, in their mid 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, now you're seeing them actually enjoying life, right? Now that the children are out of the house, they're grown and having their own families. And so as we're thinking about these things, being the independent woman, having this superwoman complex, carrying all of the weight by yourself, wearing all of the hats literally costs something. It costs something. And so I want to know how many of y'all can relate. Whether it's the grandmamas out here living their best lives and you don't understand why they ain't homeschooling these children. You don't understand why they ain't picking them up from school and dropping them off at home. Whether it's you understand what it's like to wear the superwoman cape because you're currently doing it. Like, just let me know how many of you all can relate. Somebody said they had like 10 clubs and 2 jobs. Listen, they out here. They out here. Many of us can relate to this, right? And so, as we're talking about wearing too many hats, I want to kind of feel for who's all in the room, who's showing up live, right? And so, let me know in the chat, put a 1, okay, if you're a solopreneur. Put a 1 if you are a solopreneur. You have a business or you're desiring to have a business, but you don't have a team. Let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you are a solopreneur. Or if you have like a team of contractors but not a full-time employee. Let me know. Yes, you can relate. Yes. And then put a 2 in the chat if you know that you wear multiple hats in your business. Okay, I got a lot of solopreneurs in here. Put a 2 in the chat if you wear multiple hats in your business. Like, you don't just show up as founder, you don't just show up as CEO, but you're showing up in multiple different, like, you are the leader of every department in your business. Put a 2 if that's you. Listen, that's me. That's why I'm over here like, where's my husband, aka my tech person? Because I don't know what's going on with this Zoom. Okay. Yeah, so I got multiple people who wear multiple hats in their business. And then put a 3 in the chat if you need a vacation, because where are we going? Like, who's planning the trip? Put a 3 in the chat if you need a vacation and you're ready to go last month. Like, where's the girls trip? Listen, let me tell you, me and my friend, we've been like, for the past year or so, we've been like, girl, we need to plan a girls trip. We need to plan a girls trip. Listen, we need a vacation. Listen, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. We need some vacations. Okay, so I told y'all that when we come here every single day, I'm not just going to be talking to y'all the whole time. I want y'all to engage with me, but then even more so, there's going to be an activity that we do on the call live that is going to help us be able to identify what it is that we're doing, and then we're going to address it on day 2 and day 3. And so for today, we're going to do an invisible role and task audit. And so for those of you who have the workbook, okay, yes, I see 1s, 2s, and 3s in the chat. Somebody says 2 and 3 for me. Same. Okay. And so we're going to do an invisible roles and task audit. And so if you have the workbook, I want you all to open it up to day 1 section where we're going to literally be writing these things out. And if you don't have the workbook, you can either go and get it, or you can grab you a notebook and a pen, because we're about to get into it. We're about to get into it because when we do this task audit, when we can identify all of the roles that we're playing, at this point, everybody's 1, 2, and 3, right? When we do this role and task audit, that's going to help us get clarity, and it's going to bring awareness to what all we got going, so that we can then address it, so that we have the problem right there in front of us. Now we can come up with a solution to get some things off of our plate, to figure out what we should be doing and what we absolutely should not be doing. Okay, and so we talked about the invisible roles that we play that no one sees, but we know are draining us. One of the things I did a burnout workshop for a nonprofit organization's community on Monday, and we were talking about the invisible roles. And one of the things that I had shared with them was like, my oldest son, when he eats chicken, I don't know what it is about chicken, but it always ends up on the floor. And I remember, like, my husband, he's always like, Legend, the chicken on the floor, like, how we get there, right? It just be a whole bunch of crumbs of chicken on the floor, like the fried chicken. And I remember one day I was like, go get a broom and get that up, right? Because sometimes as parents, we're like, okay, especially if we have little ones, we know like we just got to go and do it, right? If we want something done, we got to do it ourselves, right? And so we just go get the broom and sweep it up just so the house is clean. But I remember one day I was like, go get the broom and clean it up. And he did it. And I was just like, I should never have to sweep again because my oldest son knows how to sweep. And then now, since we started doing that, now sometimes you don't even have to tell him. If he sees like there's crumbs on the floor, he'll go get the broom and just sweep it up. And so this was an invisible role that you wouldn't normally say that I'm a house cleaner as a role if somebody asks you what are all the roles you're playing. But now you're realizing like, well, I am a chef. I do make the meals in the house. I am the cleaner. I do the laundry. I do all of these things. And we don't even know that just even sweeping and cleaning up. I got 3 children, right? I'm surrounded by boys. I'm a boy mom. How many boy moms we got? I'm a boy mom. I'm surrounded by boys. I've been surrounded by boys all my life. And like the thought of cleaning up behind them every single day is draining. Just the thought is draining. So imagine the action, right? And so that's an invisible role. But when you begin to hand off some of those things, it lightens the load. And so I want you to identify the invisible work, right? Okay, shout out to the boy moms in the chat. Identify the invisible work. I want you to first off list all of the roles you're currently responsible for in your life and in business. Because sometimes we come and we only focus on the business, not realizing that the things that we're doing in life impacts what we do in business, right? So if you're wearing all of the hats in your personal life, if you have a lot going on in your personal life and you try to separate that from you as a CEO, it won't work out. Like on my calendar, I was doing like a strategic strategy session with someone this past weekend, and I was showing them the calendar, and they was just like, "Hold up, like this OD basically." But I was showing them like I have multiple calendars attached to one calendar because I can't. Someone can't be like, "Hey, can I meet with you?" And I only consider what I'm doing as a CEO. I'm literally a stay at home mom. My children are homeschooled, and I have a business with clients. And my husband has his own schedule in itself. And so, if I only consider me as a CEO, I'm always going to be saying no to something else, right? A lot of times we find people in business, they put family on the back burner. Sometimes that's the same thing for ministry. And it's because we're not considering like the holistic view of who we are, and we're just taking like the bits and pieces. And so list all of the roles that you're currently responsible for in life and in business. And I want you all to write those down. For some of you who have daughters and things of that nature, like you also a whole beautician if you can do hair, because I don't know how to do hair, y'all. I don't know how I was raised in a household where everybody was a beautician. Everybody has a cosmetologist license, but I did not get it. So I don't know how to braid. I don't know how to do hair. Like it just skipped me. But for those of you who have little girls, you also show up as a beautician because you waking up in the morning before school started and now you got to do hair, right? You a counselor, you counseling your friends, you counseling your children. You're doing all of the things. As a CEO, don't get me started on social media. So now you a whole influencer, you a social media strategist, you a marketing assistant, you're a sales rep because you're trying to sell these offers. Really think about all of the roles and begin to list them down. And that's just the roles. Once you do the roles, I then want you to move on and list the invisible task, right? What are the tasks, invisible or not, that you're doing every single day, right? What do you do every single day? The socials, I'm telling you. What are you doing every single week? Monthly? What are the things that you have to do that take up mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, right? And I say think about that in your personal life, in your business life, because all of these things are going to either drain your time, your energy, or the momentum you have. So I need you all to even list the invisible tasks and really like write this out. So if I don't see y'all posting in the chat, I'm assuming that y'all taking notes because we're gonna need this part for tomorrow. For the work that we do tomorrow, we're going to need this list. This list is going to be key for the rest of the work that we're doing for day 2 and day 3, right? So some of the tasks that you're doing that you don't even think about when someone asks you, like, what you do today? Like, you didn't even tell them that you was responding to DMs, that you were creating graphics, that you were tracking unpaid invoices. You didn't even tell them that you had to follow up with your family members. You had to reach out to your friend because it was her birthday. You didn't say none of that. People be like, Ebony, what you do? Sometimes I just be like, I don't know. Go look at my agenda. Go look at my calendar. That's gonna be the best bet for you. And even then, a lot of the stuff just has to be grouped depending on what it is. Because there's so many things that we're doing. And then I want you to list the unspoken expectations that you've taken on, right? So sometimes we're saying yes to things and we don't even know what we're signing up for. Man, for years I've been talking to my husband about expectations, unspoken expectations, unrealistic expectations. For those of you who are, in corporate or who have jobs and you're an employee, like even think about the different roles that you're in your business that doesn't align with your job description. Those are expectations, whether spoken or unspoken. Those are things that you have now taken on for whatever reason, right? And so, what do you feel responsible for that you never formally agreed to, but you do it anyway? Right? For some of you, it's like, well, I never said I was going to be following up with people, but here you are following up with people. I never said that I was going to be the one on the sales calls, or I didn't say I was going to be on all of these meetings, but here you are on all of the meetings because it's an unspoken expectation. And we try to meet even unspoken expectations. We try to meet unrealistic expectations. Or we end up trying to do the thing that we think is expected of us because there's no clarity. And so spend time doing this. List all of the roles that you're currently doing in life and business. List out all of the tasks that you're doing every single day, every single week. And then make sure you're thinking about those expectations that you've taken on. I put this here and I can send this to you all in the email, but I wanted to put on like a resume, right? And this is what some of our resumes would look like if we were honest. Cause sometimes we be having like fluff on our resumes. I don't even know if y'all can really see that. But it says Morgan Superwoman Carter, right? Wearing every hat everywhere. That's her location. She can't even say remote, right? And her little tagline is seeking clarity, capacity, and a real team. Okay. Her profile says high capacity woman operating as a one woman department known for managing executive level leadership while simultaneously performing admin, operations, marketing, sales, strategy, found she's a founder, she's a spiritual support provider. She's looking to offload the invisible responsibilities, restore her capacity, and build sustainable systems that honor her purpose and her peace. And then I just put like all of the skills that she would have on her plate, right? Unrealistic time management, right? She's an expert in maximizing her minutes, filling gaps, making miracles out of messy calendars, right? Conflict resolution under pressure, multitasking mastery, crisis response. Because let me tell you, as a work from home, stay at home mom, right? Crisis response and contingency planning is my middle name at this point. Basically, yes, the 100 hats. Exactly, right? The avoidance of delegation is a whole skill, right? I'm gonna send this to y'all because it was good. All right, so I'm gonna talk about over functioning really quick because I already know we had time and I know the VIP girls got questions. And so we talked about over functioning from fear, guilt, or pride. And I want y'all to understand that over functioning isn't just about what you're doing, right? Because sometimes we're like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But it's also about the why, right? Why do you keep doing it? Like, you know, you're doing too much. Like, when I was, what is it called? I was a vendor at an event, which is where most of y'all are coming from, meeting me at that event. And I remember this girl, she was walking past me and she literally said, doing too much. That's me. And like sometimes we can easily identify that we're in that category of doing too much, but we never stop to figure out why we keep doing too much when we know we're doing it, right? It's almost that thing. I don't know if you all saw the email that went out earlier where I sent a video of me talking about this knowing and doing gap.
At 7 o'clock.
Thanks, Siri. Like there's this knowing and doing gap. You know what you should or shouldn't be doing, but you don't do it, right? And so then we have to address why. Why are you still doing the things that you know you shouldn't be doing? Why are you still not doing the thing that you know you should be doing? Many of us on this call should have been authors of multiple books by now. We should be bestsellers by now. We should be making multiple six figures by now. But we don't realize we're not even thinking about why we keep procrastinating, why we keep pushing the deadlines back. Because this is what happens, right? Over functioning happens when you're consistently doing for everybody else what they could possibly be doing for themselves. I say it all the time. Like, so many people are building other people's businesses, they're fulfilling other people's assignments, and they haven't one stop to obey and do the thing that God told them to do. And we think that's okay. We think that's not disobedience, and it very much so is, right? And so you're constantly saying yes to something that somebody else can be doing. I was talking to somebody and they was like, Eb, if I don't know nothing about you, I know you don't mind saying no. And I'm like, I don't. Because over functioning also signifies that there's a lack of a boundary or a boundary that is being crossed, oftentimes consistently, right? And then over functioning happens when you take on roles and responsibilities beyond your capacity, right? Because it feels safer than letting go. Like, man, okay. Your boss come up to you and say, hey, I need you to do this. Now, if you go back and look on your job description and in your contract, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that you're supposed to be doing this. But you're gonna be like, okay, right? Over functioning because you feel like if you tell your boss no, it's gonna go on your record or you gonna get fired. Like we overfunction for so many reasons, right? Overfunctioning happens when you normalize dysfunction, right? So many times dysfunction has become the norm, right? You normalize dysfunction by compensating for everybody else. And so, especially for women, we do that. As moms, we're like, oh, I have to do this for this person. I feel obligated to do this. I feel obligated to show up. I feel obligated to say yes and support everything that they're doing. Meanwhile, you ain't did the last thing God told you to do. For 2 years, you've been saying you was going to do this, and you have yet to do it. But you're saying yes to everybody else, every other thing. And we don't realize we have become the superwoman, right? And as I was doing this, I seen this quote, and it says, over functioning is a form of control, right? So some of us, our problem is really is we got a control issue, right? Over functioning is a form of control that masquerades as service and excellence. And I was like, excuse me? Because I hear that all of the time. Oh, I have to do all of this. That's one of the things that I had to learn in business, right? When I began to like step out of just being an employee and doing my own thing, offering my own services, launching my own things, one of the mindsets that I had to get rid of was that I had to do all of the things and be all things, right? Because I thought, well, the more things that I put in the scope of work, it would make me look more excellent, right? Because I'm giving them all of the things that they can think of. I'm taking everything off of their plate. And I thought that was excellence. Even just growing up in ministry, right? Saying yes to everything. You on 10 different departments. You at every program. And you're like, listen, this is my service unto the Lord. But the Lord told you to write that book and you ain't wrote that one yet. Is that not to your service unto the Lord? Right? It's that over functioning, and we're trying to pick and choose what we want to obey God in. Okay, Lord, I know you want me to serve in your house. I'm gonna choose that because this other thing may be too hard. This other thing, I feel like I don't have a blueprint for that. And so there's this perceived need, and then we overcommit. And then when we overcommit, we feel like, okay, woo, I have this temporary relief. I did the thing, right? I checked that thing off of the to-do list. But then there's like this invisible resentment, right? When we're showing up for everybody else and we realize another year has gone by and we haven't done the thing that we were supposed to do. And so now you're feeling that invisible resentment that you might not ever communicate, and then it goes into the crash, right? Or the burnout. Now you're overwhelmed. You don't want to do nothing. You're like, I just want to go get in bed. You stop serving altogether. And it's like, well, you didn't have to stop serving completely. You just needed to say you going from 8 ministries to one, 8 ministries to two. You didn't have to change your whole scope of work. You just needed to take off all that extra stuff, right? And then what we notice is this cycle of over functioning is something that you continuously repeat over and over and over again because you fail to address it. All right. Here's some reasons because some of y'all might be like, girl, that's me. I'm over functioning. I say yes to some things that I know I shouldn't be saying yes to. And here's why. And the reason why we need to go over this, because if you can identify why you're saying yes to things, why you're over functioning, why you're over committing, then we can deal with that, right? And so one reason is because you're trying to prove your worth. You somehow have attached your identity, your worth, and your value to how you show up for everybody else, right? For some of you, you're trying to prove your worth because you're like, well, if I slow down, then I'm going to lose momentum. And if I don't make the 6 figures in the first year of me starting my business, then people not going to see me as an expert. Then people not going to see me as the go-to girl in my industry. And then for others, you're like, you're avoiding disappointment, right? If I don't do it, they'll mess it up. It goes back to that control thing we talked about in business. Like you don't want to delegate because you're like, if I delegate and they mess it up, I'm gonna be disappointed. And so I'm just gonna do it myself. And then also there's this guilt or pressure to be everything, right? A good mom, a good wife who sacrifices herself completely. I see so many women who talk about, how when they got married and when they became a mother, they lost their identity. And so usually once the children go away, they're rediscovering who they are, what they like, what they love, because there's been so much guilt and pressure for them to be everything. And then you also might be over functioning because you feel solely responsible for other people's outcomes. How sway? Like you feel like if I don't do it, then it's gonna fall apart. Listen, I was in ministry and I carried a lot of weight, right? In this one particular ministry. And one of the things I found very early on in ministry that if you say yes and you carry all of the things, people will let you. People will let you be the go-to person because they know, oh, this person is dependable, this person is excellent, this person is reliable, and they will continue to allow you to carry all of the things. Meanwhile, they're sitting at the table with you and no one will step up to the plate because they know you gonna do it, and they know you might do it better, and they know you might do it faster, and so they'll let you do it. But we have to get careful because if we start making the assumption that if we don't do it, it won't get done, or if we don't do it, it's gonna fall apart. Like, and I think it was all the Lord's doing, just in His intentionality and Him being the God of strategy, right? He literally caused me and my husband to transition out of the ministry, right? And now, when people who were carrying a lot of the weight have to step out, it forces other people to step up, right? Like there's times I tell people, I'm like, you don't gotta show up for everything. By you not being there, it forces other people to gain the skill. It forces them to learn. Sometimes people aren't growing because they're not given the opportunity to grow, because the person who's most reliable, the person who's most dependable, they're always getting the assignment. And it's like, let them other people step up. They want to do it anyway. Also, there's a fear of being unseen or unneeded. If I don't do it, if I don't show up, then they'll forget about me. They won't ask me to do it no more. They'll just go to the next person. So there's this need to be validated. And then this over identification with being the dependable one, right? Everyone counts on me. Everyone is dependent on me. I can't let them down. We do that. Um, Apparently, there's this whole phenomenon about the older sibling or the older daughter that I just heard recently, where there's this over identification with being the dependable one. And so the older daughter or older sibling like holds it down. If things are going wrong with the family, they count on her. And I was just like, this is so interesting. I'm a middle girl. So technically, I'm the youngest, but then like if you include like all of my siblings, I'm like in the middle. Okay. So those are some reasons why you might be over functioning. And I am well beyond time because I really be getting passionate. I can. Okay. But I want you all to choose one role or hat from your audit, right? From all of the things that you've listed on the audit that you've done, whether you go back and do it later or if you've already done it, I want you to choose one role or one hat from your audit and ask yourself, why am I holding on to this? Like, for what reason? And I want you to get very honest with yourself, because what you may find is it may be one of the reasons we just identified for why people overfunction, why people overcommit. And I didn't even get into like people just do it because, you know, they want to stay in their comfort zones, pride, disobedience, all like I didn't even get into all those things. But ask yourself, why am I holding on to this? Even as you're going through your task audit and you're writing down everything you're doing, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? If you find yourself saying, because I'm the only one who can do it, wrong, right? If I don't do it, it's gonna fall apart, wrong, right? Ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I let it go? Would it force other people to step up or get in position? would everything crumble, or do you believe or perceive that everything will crumble? Because how would you know if you never let it go? Right? And then the survival mode scheduling is when you reactively manage your time instead of intentionally storing it. One of the things that I live by is if it's not on the calendar, it does not exist. It does not exist to me. Like my husband, I'm like, hey, what you got going on? Because if what he has going on isn't on that calendar, it does not exist to me. Because that calendar, and I know some people are like, well, I don't want to be boxed in. I don't want to live by my calendar. I don't want to be so rigid. Like I'm very flexible because I intentionally plan flexibility in my calendar. But survival mode scheduling, that's when you reactively manage your time, right? And it really all boils down to a lack of stewardship. It's also when you're staying busy, right? You're so busy. We talked about it, but you never feel accomplished because the things that you were so busy doing wasn't even in alignment to the goals that you set. And so we make it all the way to September and we realize the goals that we set in January, we haven't scratched the surface. And we haven't scratched the surface because it wasn't aligned. It wasn't aligned with the capacity you have. It wasn't aligned to the assignment that God gave you. It wasn't aligned. And here's a few key traits, and I won't even get into all of these simply because I am well beyond my time. But key traits of survival mode scheduling: no margin between meetings or commitments. Sometimes we just stack them back to back to back to back to back. And then you're wondering why. You're like, okay, you're forgetting things in one meeting, you're combining meetings, and you're like, wait, what are we talking about right now? Right? You have an overflowing to do list that you never complete. You're responding to everyone else's needs instead of you actually leading in your business. You always or most times choose to, skip your quiet time or your devotional time because you got to show up at somebody else's call. You got to show up on someone else's meeting. You got to do something else. You put yourself on the back burner, right? A survival mode schedule looks full, but it's mostly filled with other people's priorities. My husband saw this and he was like, what? A survival mode schedule looks full, but it's mostly filled with other people's priorities. If you go and you do this task audit, or if you go and look at your calendar on day 2, when we begin to get into the calendar hack, and you realize that everything that's on your calendar is everybody else's thing and nothing of what God told you to do, there's a problem. You have been operating in disobedience and you are in error, and there needs to be a shift that happens before the year is out. All right, so let's recap and bring it all full circle, okay? The 3 things that drain our time, energy, and momentum is wearing too many hats, over functioning, and survival mode scheduling. And so we saw in the morning session, Diana broke down Exodus 18, right? And she talked about how Jethro came to Moses and was, after he noticed everything that Moses was doing, he said, what is this thing that you're doing? And so Moses started telling him, like, oh yeah, well, I do this because these people need me for this, and they come to me to settle their disputes, and they need me to teach them the statutes and all of the things. And Moses is like, oh, that sounds real good. You in the perfect will of God, you doing exactly what he told you to do. But the way in which you're doing it, right? The system that you're operating in currently is not good. Imagine somebody coming up to you saying, because you told them what all you're doing, and you're like, this is what God told me to do this. God told me to do this. He told me to serve. He told me to write this book. He told me to build this business. And somebody tell you, oh, what you doing not good. You ready to fight. What you mean? Oh, they not in the spirit. Right? She said, you said that so kind. They not in the spirit. You get straight in defensive mode because somebody told you that the thing God told you to do and what you're doing is not good. And when you really go deep into that scripture, Moses wasn't telling him that what he was doing wasn't good. He was really telling him the way in which he was doing it, the how he was doing it was not good. And he said that it was going to not only wear Moses out, because sometimes I asked y'all at the beginning, who's impacted if you burn out, right? Jethro said, if you continue in this way, you and the people, all the people who you said God has called you to serve, all the people who are attached to you, all of the people who are ready and waiting for you to arise, all of the people who God has sent you to steward, all of them, not only you, but all of them too, will wear themselves out. And it goes beyond burnout, but I ain't gonna tell y'all because y'all gonna have to go watch that replay because Diana broke it all down for us. But Moses was wearing too many hats. And the key, biblical key, right, that Jethro gave him on what to do was to delegate. You got to get all of the other keys on the replay. But he said, listen, you need to delegate. But here's another key part. You're not just going to delegate to anybody and everybody. Because sometimes we like to go and hire the most basic VA because we think we're like, we just want to get it done. Right. And shout out to the VAs because I started as a virtual assistant and I was a general virtual assistant because I was trying to learn all of the skills so that I can upskill and then niche down. Okay. So this is not a whatever y'all be calling it. Like it's not a hit to virtual assistants like I used to be her. But I see a lot of people, they shoot to hire virtual assistants because they can charge them less. But they don't even consider all of the other things that Jethro said. He said, because you don't just go and delegate to anybody and everybody, they have to be a particular type of person. They need to have a certain type of character. First of all, they need to be able to do the thing that you need them to do. Do they fear God? Because how are we operating kingdom businesses, but we're letting anybody and everybody come and put their hands in the work that we're doing? And so that was wearing too many hats. Over functioning Martha. We gonna talk about Martha and Mary in the morning. So make sure y'all come. I'm not gonna even go into it because we're gonna talk about it in the morning session. And then with survival mode scheduling, I think about the story of Elijah, right? He had just taken out the prophets of Baal, and Jezebel was like, hold up, nah, just what you did to them, I'm coming to do to you, right? And I remember in the story, Elijah's like, Lord, I'm the only one left. It's only me. I'm the only one here. I'm all alone. And he said, just take me out of here. Just take me out. And y'all, my renditions of the story be like the Ebony James version, okay? Okay, New King James, Ebony James. Okay, and so Elijah was like, listen, take me out of here because she trying to kill me. I'm the only one left. Like, it's nobody else. Just take me out of here. And sometimes we think like that in our business. Like, Lord, just take the business because I'm the only one who's doing this. I don't have no help. I don't have no support. You know, I don't have a blueprint. Like some of us, we think we the only one who got this business idea and ain't nobody ever did it like we did it. So we like just throw the whole business away because Lord, you couldn't have called me to this, right? But anywho, Elijah, he was like, just take me out of here. And I can't remember if it was the Lord or the angel, but they was like, boy, eat something. Like you just need to rest. You just need to reset. Go eat something because I have an assignment for you. Go and get you something to eat because I have need of you. I have need of you. You over here, Thomason, take me out of here. We can't afford to burn out. I feel like at that moment, Elijah was at the place where he was like, I'm all done here. I give up. I'm done. I did what I needed to do. I'm done. Right. I believe he was almost at that place of like burnout. And it was like, just eat something. So you would see he would go to sleep and then they would like wake him up and then they was like, eat. There's need. I have a need for you. There's an assignment that you have to fulfill, but you need strength to do it. You can't be drained. You can't have no energy for the thing that God has for you to do. You can't burn out because there's an Elisha who needs an Elijah. But we're not gonna get into that one, okay? Okay. We're going to skip over all of this because I can't get into it. But I want to let you know that even in all of those stories, y'all, you were never meant to carry it by yourself. You was never meant to carry it by yourself. Even in the beginning, right? In the beginning, out of all the things that God had assigned to Adam, he still wasn't meant to do it all by himself. He needed a helpmeet, right? And sometimes we only look at that in like the case of marriage, but even in your business, you need a partner. You need someone to come alongside of you and do the work. And so I want to let you all know that the overwhelm that you're experiencing, the anxiety that you're experiencing in your business, the worry, the tiredness, all of the exhaustion that you're experiencing in your business is proof that somewhere, somehow along the way that you've been operating outside of God's design for you. Overwhelm should be a red flag for you that you are operating outside, out of alignment of God's design for you, whether it's in life or in business. Whenever I feel like I'm operating in overwhelm, I'm like, Lord, what's this? What I do? What I need to shift, right? And I want to talk to y'all like why this work matter, because I've seen so many women, not only the women in my family that I've talked to you all about, but also the women who I serve in business. I've seen them try to do it by themselves, right? They try to carry everything by themselves. They believe that they have to wait till they have these huge teams, or they believe that they have to wait till they're already making the six figures to finally be able to, enjoy life, enjoy business, right? Imagine starting a business because you wanted time freedom, because you wanted flexibility, because you wanted increased income so that you can actually spend time with your family. But then you get in it, and because you refuse to get support, right? You still are in your business 24/7. You're in the thick of things, you're in the weed, right? And I want you all to know that you really do deserve that freedom, right? And I want you to get the freedom now, not decades from now, not when you're literally ready to come on up out of here. Like, I don't want you to have to wait to your 50s and your 60s, right? That's why you're on the call. That's why you're showing up, because you're like, listen, I can't afford this. Not only can you not afford it, but the people who you're called to serve cannot afford you burning out. They can't afford you waiting 10, 20 years down along the line in your business for you to actually catch the revelation that you were never supposed to do it by yourself. And so imagine if all of this stuff could change. Like, imagine if you could stop being overwhelmed in business, right? Imagine if you no longer had to choose to be the superwoman in business. Imagine if you actually had the support that you needed. And many of you probably could think of like, man, if I had the support that I needed, that would look like me hiring this person. I would have somebody doing social media. Everybody want to do social media first. So some of you are like, man, I would have somebody doing customer service. I would have somebody on these sales call bringing in the lead. I would have somebody doing my lead generation. I would have somebody doing my marketing. Like, you could picture, I don't know how many people who you would want in your business if you had all of the resources, if there were no barriers for you to go to the next level in your business. I'm sure there's a few people who you think you would want to hire, right? And so imagine, keep that in mind. Like, who would you hire? Where would your business be? Where would you be? What impact would you be making on the people who you're called to serve if you had the support you needed, right? Imagine what it would feel like to finally breathe in business, where you didn't have to wake up on 10, where you wasn't having to like rush and hop on this meeting, hop on this meeting, and be in meetings all day. One of the things, I was working with someone who worked in edutech, and I was like, when do y'all actually implement the work that y'all be talking about all day? Because y'all stay in meetings. Like, how are you actually getting anything accomplished if you're in meetings every day. Imagine what it would feel like if you didn't have to be in meetings all day to make money. Imagine what it would feel like for you to finally be able to breathe, for you to wake up without no alarm clock. Imagine what it would feel like if you didn't have to worry about if your client was going to pay their invoice, right? And so tonight, it's about awareness, understanding what's on your plate. It's about belief and possibility. Like, what would it be like if I wasn't doing it by myself? If I wasn't having to show up for myself? If I didn't have to just depend on myself? Imagine it. Like, I really want y'all to get the picture in your head. Imagine if you wasn't putting a 3 in the comments because you needed a vacation and you was already on vacation even watching this. If you was on vacation, you probably wouldn't even have to be watching this, right? Imagine this is the night that we think about what's possible. Listen, Virtual Transaction Solution says she can imagine it. Listen, imagine, man, I remember a few years ago, I was in Mexico and it was just me. I ain't have my husband, I ain't have my children. I was waking up. It was all expense paid, all you can eat resort, whatever it's called when you get everything, you gotta pay for nothing when you get there. It was that. And I remember waking up without no alarm. And I was able to just go on a balcony and just journal, have my uninterrupted personal time with the Lord. And I was just like, I can do this every day. I can do this every day, waking up to the sunrise and just spending uninterrupted time with the Father. Oh, I can imagine that. Right? So tonight is about belief and possibility. And I want you all to think like, what would you actually do if you had an extra 40 hours a month? Like, what would you do with that? Some people are like, I just need 5 extra hours just to go run an errand. I just need 10 hours so I can just be off for one day. Listen, I miss it. What would you do if you had an extra 40 to 60 hours per month? What could you do? Even if you had an extra 10 to 15 hours in next week alone, right? If next week you could get an extra 15 hours in your week, what would you do? Some of you like, man, I will already be finished with my book. If I can just get 15 more hours, like, are you going to pick up some other responsibilities or are you going to actually do the thing that you've been saying you're going to do all year? Like, I don't know how many people who are writing books on the call, but how many hours do you need to finish the book? How many hours do you need to actually self-publish the book? How many hours do you need to market the book, to create 10, 15, 20 graphics or more, to schedule your post out? What could you do if you had that many hours in your next week alone? For those of you who are starting your businesses, how many hours do you need to actually get clear, to write the vision, to make it plain, and then to actually do the task that you have on your to-do list so that you can actually launch the business? How many hours do you need to study so that you can go and take the exam so that you can get certified? What would you do? Like, I really want y'all to think. Let me tell y'all, as we're talking right now, I have a client who is out of office, right? Why can't she be out of office without a care in the world? Living her best life. Matter of fact, she just came from a trip a couple months ago, and then she's out of office this week and is about to go out the country in a few weeks. Living her life, her best life. How can she do that? Because she hired support, because she has help. So what would you do? I have another client. She's While that client is out the country, she's gonna be out the state traveling, learning some new hobby. How can they do this? What if you had 15 extra hours in your week to even just and go to the gym? Go pick up a new hobby, go learn how to play golf, go horseback riding, go spend time with your family. For those of you who are like me, I just want to spend time with my family. What all would you do with your family if you had 15 hours? Where would you go? Let me know in the chat where y'all going. If you had 15 hours next week where and you had the money and money wasn't a barrier, where are you going? Where are you going? Me, as long as there's some sun, not too hot, but no, I don't want no cold. As long as there's some sun and a beach and some in a resort that's kid friendly, probably, right? Sign me up. I don't care if it's in the states or outside of the states. I I just want to go to the beach, all exclusive, inclusive resort. Like, listen, I would love an extra 15 hours. Listen, I know. This is why I created the operations management and strategy retainer. I literally support my clients with this every single week, right? And because I show up for them in their business as a strategist, as an operations manager, which means I'm literally supporting them in the day to day of their businesses. I'm supporting them with the systems. I'm supporting them with the automations, right? They're able to go and do these things. Like they just be taking trips, and I'd be like, didn't you just come from out of town? Like, weren't you just in another country last month? But they get to do that because they're not worried about, oh, if I go out of town, the ball is going to get dropped. Why? Because they didn't just get any support. They didn't just delegate to anybody and everybody. They gave it to someone who fears God. That means I'm showing up integral, right? They delegated to someone who was fully capable to do the things that she said she would do during the interview, during the discovery call. And so I created the operations management package, and it literally gives my clients 40 hours a month, right? 40 hours a month. And usually when I work with my clients, they work with me on, like, starting out, they have to work with me for a minimum of 3 months. That's 120 hours per quarter that you get back. 120 hours. Imagine if you had 120 hours Q4. Quarter four, if you had 120 hours, what you doing with that? What are you doing? When I started working with one of my longest standing clients to this day, she told me at the end of December, I take 2 weeks off in my business. I said, say less. In December, the last 2 weeks, I take 2 weeks off too. If my client taking 2 weeks off, I'm off 2 weeks in my business, right? And I'm still able to provide you the 120 hours. That's a lot of time. What can you do? If you have 40 hours in October, right? Black Friday coming up, you got time to prep. If you haven't already prepped, because you probably should have been prepped, right? November, Thanksgiving coming up, you want to travel and you don't want to travel and go be with family and be on your laptop all day. What can you do with 40 hours in November? In December, we got Christmas break, the kids home from school. Imagine not having to be trying to maintain your household and entertain your children because you don't you got a partner. You got someone who is literally giving you 40 hours, right? Listen, I'm fully persuaded. I don't know about you, but I'm fully persuaded that with the right partner, listen, this is biblical. Jethro told Moses this is in Exodus, right? I'm fully persuaded that with the right partner, with the right team member, you can literally experience supernatural results. With 120 plus hours in a quarter, you can experience supernatural results before the end of the year, right? Because here's one thing that we know for sure, right? Surely we know that you can't do this by yourself. That's what Jethro told Moses. He said, surely the thing that you're doing is not good. Surely that means it is going to happen. Diana talked us through this morning. It's a promise. It's not, well, this might happen. He said, no, this is going to happen. It's sure to happen. It's promised that you are going to wear you and the people out. because you up here trying to do it yourself. If you keep doing what you're doing, the same thing that you've been doing the past 90 days, and you do not get support, eventually, surely, it may not happen this week, it may not happen next month, it may not even happen in 2025, but it will happen that you will wear yourself out. And the person who you identified at the beginning of this session, when you said, these are the people who are impacted if I burn out, these people will also be impacted. Plus, if you could do it by yourself, everybody on the call basically said that they were a solopreneur, right? And so you know that if you could do it by yourself, you would have done it already. If you could have met all of your goals without support, you would have done it. If you could have written your book this year with by yourself without support, you would have already done it. Your book would already been released. We know this. This is what we know, right? And so let me tell y'all about two clients that I worked with. One is Jasmine, one is Janae. And Jasmine had this to say. She was like, Ebony was an absolute pleasure and a game changer for my productivity and my peace of mind. Because I'm not here to just check off your to-do list, right? I'm going to help you gain momentum. I'm going to help you put in systems and things in place, but I also am going to give you the peace of mind, right? And she said reliability and timeliness are two major qualities that Ebony consistently excelled in. Whether it was managing schedules, coordinating meetings, or handling urgent tasks, she executed. Sometimes we just put executed in the chat, because a lot of times that's the missing piece in our businesses. We don't want to execute, but Jasmine said that she executed everything with precision and efficiency. Ebony brought so much expertise to the table. Her proficiency in operations, in tech, and project management was invaluable. It couldn't even put a price on it. Okay. From streamlining processes to managing projects, clients, she demonstrated a level of competence that significantly contributed to the success of our projects. Then we have Janae. And Janae said, working with Ebony in the Empire Effect Agency was such a pleasure. I always knew that if I needed someone to strategize with, I could call on her. She always had so many well thought out ideas, and I could tell she put a lot of time into her responses. She easily been one of the best hires I've made in business to date. And I say this because a lot of service providers can implement, but Ebony always did more than that. She simply made my business better. Your administrative sidekick, because that's what I used to have on my website, is spot on. And I recommend her to any business owners looking for an operational guru. So you don't even have to take my word for it, y'all. These are people who I've actually worked with, right? And I want to highlight that she said she was an absolute game changer. And by she, I mean me. Absolute game changer for my productivity and my peace of mind. Sometimes somebody came up to me recently and they was like, what makes you different than anybody else? Some people be like, well, I'm just going to hire me a virtual assistant first. I'm going to hire me an AI agent first, right? And then they say like, well, what makes you different? This is what makes Ebony different. This is what makes the Empire Effect Agency different. And I say this with all humility, y'all. A lot of service providers can implement, but Ebony always did more than that. She simply made my business better. Simply, keyword, because I'm gonna tell you, you're doing too much. You're trying to put a lot of tools on your tech stack, and it don't take all that. Like, how can we do this in the most simplest, most efficient, and effective way? And so imagine a business where your time is protected. Imagine a business where you have peace of mind. Imagine a business where you have a team that thrives, even if it's just you and one other person. And imagine a business where you finally have breathing room, right? We hear a lot people talking about, reducing stress or managing stress and burnout. But listen, I'm not one of those people who are like, how do we reduce this? How do we just continue to put things on top of the symptoms? How do we continue to mask the I'm not her. This is not this webinar. This is not this 3-day reset. We're not going to be talking about reducing or managing stress and burnout. Our goal is to eliminate it completely. So if you're not even experiencing burnout, but you're seeing the warning signs and the red flags, my goal is help you to prevent burnout. Right? Because there's a difference between stress and burnout, but we won't get on that on this call because it's about to be 2 hours. That's crazy. Okay. And so my goal is not for you to reduce or manage stress and burnout. It's to prevent it if you've never hit it, or it's for you to recover all. If you're like, I'm in burnout right now, I need to recover from burnout. I need to get back in alignment, right? And so many people talk about reducing and managing stress, but we're talking about the keys to preventing it altogether, right? Those keys are delegation, partnership, support, focusing on the things that only you can do. So if you read Exodus 18, he told him, he said, like, when you delegate to these people, like, they're going to handle all of the small things. And the only time it's going to come up to you if it's like a big matter, a matter that only you can address. Okay, so now it's up to you, y'all. Now it's up to you, right? I created this operations management service for people who are consultants, coaches, nonprofit founders, mompreneurs, right? Who are ready to stop juggling every client need detail and start leading with strategy, focus, and freedom in mind. Nonprofit founders who are passionate about their mission, ministry leaders who are passionate about their mission, but they're overwhelmed by the day to day. I created this service for micro agency owners, right? Some of you have agencies and you want to grow your client base and you want to expand your team, but you don't want to mishandle your team members. You want to steward them well, right? Without drowning in the project management, without drowning in team management, without drowning in firefighter mode. So many times we're like, as agency owners, you're like, the moment you have a contractor who didn't do what they were supposed to do, now you're in firefighter mode because you're like, okay, let me go figure it out. Let me go get it done. And then have to deal with them after the fact. Mompreneurs, you're balancing business growth, you're balancing family life, and you're in desperate need of streamlined systems, right? Even as a mom, you need reliable support so that you can thrive at home and at work, whether you're building your own business or whether you're in your full-time job or part-time job, right? So if you're ready to 10x your results and start getting results, here's your next step, y'all. 120 hours of operations management and strategy with the Empire Effect Agency, 120 hours of strategy and implementation. I was on my 1 million Black women call today with my business advisor and my growth group sisters. And one of the things that we were talking about were um, like, what's your value proposition? What's your strategic position? Right? What's the thing that differentiate you from other people? Right? And so one of the things that I was saying, like some of those key activities that set me apart is, there's virtual assistant agencies, and then there's fractional operation officers, right? And some of them, those COOs and stuff, they really handle strategy, right? And then you have virtual assistants or VA agencies where they're all about implementation. What I love about the work that I do, that I get to merge the two. So I come and I can do the things, but I also can offer strategy, insight, wisdom. Okay. And so this is what's included. Let me get some water. This is what's included in the operations management and strategy package. And so everyone who works with me, you're going to get that strategic planning section. You're going to get the tech stack audit. You're going to get the systems and process audit. I will support you with project management, team management if you have a team. If you're like, I don't have a team yet, but you're interested, I'm going to support you with putting things in place to be able to hire your first person. Okay. I'm going to support you with workflow optimization, system streamlining, SOP development, because one of the things we talked about this morning is having all of the things in your head, right? Diana said, you listen, if everything is here in your head, that means you will always have to be there for the thing to continue to run. And so I'm going to support with the SOP development, the client journey oversight, the CRM management or development if you don't have one. And then also that day-to-day implementation. And this is what it looks like, right? Again, it's 3 months of working with me. And on the first 2 weeks, we're onboarding and we're doing kickoff. The second 2 weeks, we're auditing and we're assessing. And then we get into the implement. What's happening here? Then we get into the implementation and the optimization. And then we get into growing and sustaining your business. And so this is what your business and your life will look like when you're fully supported. We talked about like, imagine what it would look like if you had 10 hours, 120 hours, right? And we all envision what that would look like. And so based on what you envision, this is what's possible. Okay. And so if all this did was give you back 10 hours a week with your family, would this be worth it? Let me know in the chat. Would this be worth it if all you did was get 10 hours a week with your family? And then if it helped you finally take a vacation, right? If you getting 120 hours for the rest of the month, if it would help you finally take a vacation, would it be worth it? Without you having to be in your inbox, without you having to take phone calls, would this be worth it? She said my sound is in and out. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. If it helped you finally begin working on your business and not just in your business, would 120 hours be worth it? Right? Because you're probably thinking like nobody can do it like me. I'm not ready to hire, right? And I hear it so often. I get it, right? Your business is your baby. For most of you all, you're like, my business is my baby. Nobody, I don't want to give it to anyone else, right? And the truth is, you don't need someone who can do it exactly like you. You actually want the right systems and the right people in place so things can run without you having to do it, right? Or you may be thinking like, I should be able to handle this on my own. I got it. It's not that much. It's not that hard, right? Eventually I'll get to it, right? But the truth of the matter is your time, your energy, and your assignment matters too much, right? For it to be wasted on tasks that somebody else can do. And so let me tell y'all, and I'm gonna get off of here because VIPs, we are coming. We are coming. So stick with me. The total value of this operations management package over the course of 3 months is 12,000 plus, right? Jasmine and Janae, they literally told you it's really invaluable, it's really priceless. But the value is 12,000 plus. But listen, because you've been a part of Build Without Burnout, you won't even pay 7,500, right? You won't even have to pay that over the course of 3 months. Instead, the total investment is only $6,000, y'all. $6,000. That's it. For 120 hours for the next 3 months, $6,000, right? That's only $6,000 to work with the Empire Effect Agency for 3 months. And that's not even it, okay? That's not all. If you make a decision to get the support that you need during this 3-day reset, so you got time to consider, to count the cost, right? I love me some Old Testament. He was like, listen, who intending to build a house did not first consider what it would take? who did not first count the cost, right? And so you have time to make your decision. We got 2 more days. And so if you make a decision to get the support that you need during this 3-day reset, you'll also receive EA for a week, right? And so EA for a week is when I work with you for 1 week for 15 hours, right? We'll kick it off with EA for a week where all the goal and intention is to give you immediate relief and quick wins, right? So we'll hop on a kickoff strategy call just to kind of align priorities and identify what your urgent needs are. And then we're going to do some calendar reset, right? Some inbox reset, organization and systems. And then I'm going to, at the end of your quick wins, provide you with a 30-day support plan on what your next steps need to be for sustainable growth, right? But the whole goal for EA for a week is to support you in getting those quick, immediate wins. And so here's your investment options. If you're interested, if you've been looking for someone to support you operationally in your business, I would love to be the one to support you. The best offer is the $6,000 over the course of 3 weeks. And so if you pay in full over the next 2 days, then you will also receive EA for a week, right? With no additional fees. And of course, you can also pay in two, where you will pay $3,050 today just to secure your spot, or if you decide tomorrow. And then the total investment of that one will be $6,100, and you still will get EA for a week. And so if you're like, I'm interested, I want to work with her, I want to learn more, like go ahead and go to the empireeffectagency.com/operations, and you will be able to get started to secure your 120 hours for Q4. And if you're like, oh, this is too much, like, let's go back, let's count the cost, y'all. You're like, oh my goodness, this is too much. Like, I don't have this right now. Like, what is the cost of you not getting support? Right? We talked about who's impacted if you burn out, who's impacted if you don't do the thing that God called you to do, who misses out, right? Let's think about the cost, because a lot of times we think about the financial cost, but we don't think about the cost it takes if we don't take action, right? And so I would love to support you all. And day one, y'all, day one is in the books. We're done here. Outside of my VIP girly. So stick around. And I might have something else for y'all, but we're going to talk on the call. Day one is in the books, and y'all, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Imagine what the next 90 days could look like with the right support, right? This is probably one of the biggest shifts that you will make in your business, right? Putting systems in place is going to be one of the biggest shifts that you're going to have to make in your business to make your next 90 days look different from your last, right? The other biggest shift that you will make is in deciding that you don't have to do it by yourself. You're probably like, well, next year. A lot of us, I don't know why we like to procrastinate and say, oh, January. I'm going to hire in January. The biggest shift that you'll make is deciding this weekend, the rest of this week, that you don't have to do it by yourself, right? And now that we know what's been draining your time, you've done your invisible role audit, you've done your task audit. Now that you know what's been draining your time, what's been draining your energy, what's been hindering you from making gains, from seeing the fruit, right? How do you start building a schedule that actually fuels that, right? What now do you need to do every single day to make momentum, to get results, to see the fruit of your labor? That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, right? I'm going to show you exactly how to start taking back your time. And we're not just over here talking about boundaries and saying no, because that's going to be one of the things, but we're going to do something very intentional. And if you have the workbook, you're going to be able to go ahead and start putting all of those things in place, right? I'm coming for you, Amy. Okay. You're going to be able to take back your time and you're in building a schedule that aligns with your vision. So tomorrow we're talking about the calendar hack that can free up 10 plus hours of your week. And so I want you all to join me. And then, of course, in the morning, we are going to be kicking off. And like I told y'all, we're talking about Mary and Martha. We're talking about Mary and Martha. If you haven't, get the workbook, right? With the workbook, you're going to be able to go along. Everything that we're talking about is literally aligned with the PowerPoint presentation. And it's going to not only be there for you to reflect, it's going to have some reflection prompts and things of that nature so you can reflect, but there's also going to be space built in for you to actually do the things that we're talking about. And then here's your homework. And then I'm coming to you, Amy, when we move over to VIP. I need you to gather all of your calendars for tomorrow. So if you have a calendar for your work, a calendar for your personal life, a calendar for this client, a client for your side hustle, a client for your children, gather all of your calendars. And then I want you to come and think about what are those top 3 SMART goals that you have for the rest of this year. Like, what are the 3 things that you want to accomplish before the end of 2025? Gather those and bring them tomorrow. All right, so VIP, if y'all over there on YouTube, go to your email and come in Zoom. Okay, come in the Zoom link, and I am going to meet you there, and we're going to have a conversation. And I'll answer all of you all's questions there, and then I'm also going to give you all something special. And so meet me over here, VIP girlies. I'm gonna wait for some of y'all. And we're gonna talk over here. Thank you all so much for joining us on day 1 of the Build Without Burnout Challenge, and hanging in there with me, because why is it 8 o'clock? But thank you all so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Make sure you get the workbook, and I will see you tomorrow morning for day 2's morning session. All right, guys, see y'all tomorrow. Have a great night.